Crystal River lies along an area on the west coast of Florida that appealed to Florida's first people. During the woodland period 1000 BC to 1050 AD, the rivers and estuaries in Crystal River provided enough food and game to sustain a large sedentary population. Shell mounds along the riverbanks, one of great size, show former occupation by Native Americans.
It's believed the Crystal River Archaeological Site is a sacred ceremonial site and burial ground. The 18-acre site consists of shell temple mounds, burial mounds, and a village area occupied by prehistoric Native Americans as early as 500 BC. Radiocarbon dates and pottery studies indicate that the site was a ceremonial center dating to the Deptford, Weedon Island, and Safety Harbor archaeological periods from about 500 BC to sometime after 900 AD.
During the Deptford period, prehistoric societies of Florida's Gulf Coast had become highly adapted to the resources of coastal forests and salt marsh estuaries. Judging from artifacts discovered in burial mounds along the coast and throughout the eastern woodlands as far north as the Great Lakes, the Deptford people shared a common religion with many prehistoric Native Americans of the time. Copper artifacts, sheet mica, and cut or perforated animal jaws and teeth indicate a broad trade network existed. This trade network is called by archaeologists the Hopewell Interaction Sphere, named after the Hopewell site in the Ohio River Valley. Deptford peoples, like the related Weedon Island and Safety Harbor peoples that followed, lived in small villages or camps on the nearby marsh islands. They traveled to the Crystal River mounds, it is thought, for the burial of their dead, and during the Weedon Island and Safety Harbor period to attend ceremonies staged on the platform or temple mounds. On the river's edge, at the south end of the archaeological site, rises a shell temple mound 30 feet tall. Commonly referred to as Temple Mound A, it remains the largest and most astounding feature at the site. Unfortunately, a graded ramp once leading from the base to the summit on the east side of the mound was removed for construction fill prior to state ownership in 1960. Now we can only speculate on the exact nature of the ceremonies held atop the temple mounds, as the Crystal River site had been abandoned several centuries before the arrival of the Europeans and the written word. No direct descendants of the Crystal River Indians are known to exist. To the north of this temple mound is a horseshoe-shaped village area of midden, some 6 to 7 feet thick. Midden mounds are the equivalent of our modern-day landfills and consist of discarded food remains of oysters, fish, turtle, deer, and other food species. Walking further, we come to the center of the site, which is the main burial mound, built in several stages and encircled by an embankment of shell and sand that also contains burials. Clarence Moore concentrated his efforts in 1903 and following seasons in 1906 and 1917 in the excavation of the main burial area. Here he found many of the exotic artifacts for which Crystal River has become famous. Artifacts recovered at the Crystal River site are located at the Smithsonian's Museum of the American Indian as part of their Southeastern Archaeology collection. Deep in the core of the mound, Moore unearthed 39 stone and shell pendants, conch shell drinking cups, stone and clay smoking pipes, quartz crystal pendants, and many complete pottery vessels came from other locations in the mound. Associated with the central burial area are 2 upright stones or stela, which were discovered in 1964 as the site was being cleared for the creation of the state park. Engraved on the surface of Stila number 1 is what appears to be the face of a prehistoric Native American.
There's a face here. The outline of the head is here. A little bit still remains of a shoulder area, but there's definitely 2 eyes and a mouth, and then very long flowing hair from the top.
Though common at prehistoric ceremonial sites in Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean, stela are not common to be found in archaeological sites in North America. It has been speculated that the stela may have functioned as markers for the summer and winter solstices and other celestial observations. Walking further, at the north end of the site, is a second temple mound with a graded ramp to its summit.
We're standing here at Mound H. Look behind you there and you'll see a large open area, and if there were no trees there you'd see all the way to Mound A, the large mound by the river. This was an open plaza area, and so the Mound H could have represented a stage area for ceremonies conducted, and people out here at the plaza area would be able to see those ceremonies. The mound is 230 feet long, 13 foot tall. The north end of it, it actually has a smaller ramp, almost as a stage entrance. So we assume that people would enter the stage area from the back of the mound to put on ceremonies that people out in the plaza would be able to observe.
It is interesting to speculate about the connections that might have existed between Crystal River and the ancient cultures of Mesoamerica. Few scholars have been able to resist the inevitable but general comparisons. However, there is no concrete archaeological evidence that the people of Crystal River had any contact with Mesoamerican societies or their cultural practices. While it is certain that the people of Crystal River by no means existed in isolation, the role of this site is best understood in its function as a ceremonial center for local and prehistoric societies.
What many people don't realize is that the Crystal River Archaeological State Park is part of the larger Crystal River Preserve State Park, which encompasses over 27,000 acres and 19 different ecosystems. This part of the Florida coastline, often called the Nature Coast, has changed little since Europeans arrived nearly 500 years ago. These diverse ecosystems include pine flatwoods, hardwood forests, salt marshes, and mangrove islands. Several of the larger parcels added to the park over the years were acquired from families that homesteaded in the county. One tract was part of the turpentine industry in the early 1900s. Much of the property is still untouched, allowing visitors a glimpse of what this area of Florida looked like centuries ago.
Crystal River remains one of the most famous archaeological sites in Florida, and the Florida Park Service is charged with the protection, preservation, and interpretation of this sacred site for the benefit of future generations. In time, the site may reveal more answers in our quest to understand Florida's past.
On behalf of the Florida Park Service, we thank you for visiting Crystal River Archaeological State Park and hope you'll enjoy one of our other award-winning state parks in the near future.